The process of applied functional science is the transformation of the notion into the motion.
From the Gray Institute, this is the Gray Institute podcast. Gray Institute is internationally acclaimed for its innovation, development, mastery, and delivery of applied functional science, AFS. AFS is based on scientific truth, not theory, of how the human body moves in all three planes. AFS allows movement professionals like you to apply the best, most effective, and most efficient movements to any individual based on specific needs and goals. For 40 years, through training, education, and mentorship, Gray Institute has equipped over 150,000 professionals with comprehensive knowledge in the principles of applied functional science, AFS. Whether you're physical therapists, personal trainers, athletic trainers, chiropractors, strength and conditioning coaches, physicians, physiotherapists, occupational therapists, osteopaths, physical therapy assistants, or kinesiologists, our goal is to help you become the go-to movement professional.
Well, I am very excited about this webinar that's taking place. On behalf of myself, on behalf of Gary, Teri, and the entire Gray Institute, we simply just want to thank you for tuning into this webinar, as we ultimately want to cover our new specialization, the Functional Yoga System, and in doing so, giving you a snapshot or some very key content into understanding more about this specialization and the impact that it's going to have across the globe, not only for yoga professionals, but for all movement professionals. Our goal in the next 45 or so minutes is we want to cover a few key points. The first point is to talk about how we can take traditional yoga and make it more functional, all while respecting and honoring the tradition and impact that it's already had. The next thing that we want to cover is the introduction and explanation into some specific content called energy tweaks for immediate implementation and impact for the movement professional. And then last, we want to utilize some practical application into a very well-known pose of Warrior II. So what I would like to do is introduce both Gary and Teri to you and turn it over to them for a little bit of explanation of not only who they are, but the joy that they've had in comprising this amazing system called the Functional Yoga System. So Gary, let's go ahead and look it over to you.
Well, as you said, Doug, it has been a joy, and it is a joy to continue this journey with Teri and learning more about yoga. It's an honor to have you join us. It was definitely an honor for us to put this together for you, and I think it's going to be even more of an honor as we come together and learn more ways to enhance the lives of others through the power of yoga. So I'm, as you are, Doug, and as I know Teri is, extremely excited to share just a little bit of this to kind of whet your appetite, to give you some insight as to what we have done with the amazing tool, concept, strategy of yoga, and what we've done to make it a little more functional. So definitely excited, Doug.
Well, Teri, if you'd do me a favor, go ahead and give everybody an introduction to not only who you are, but the journey you've taken to get us to this point to be delivering such an amazing course.
Well, thank you, Doug. First of all, thank you, everybody, for joining us, for taking the time to register and sign on and watch a little bit of what the Functional Yoga System is. My name is Teri Lewis. I am down here in sunny Florida with my family. I'm raising 3 kids down here. And my husband and I, we have a lot of fun with them. We like to play games, we like to compete with each other, and we like to exercise. So my movement journey began as a gymnast, as a child, and I grew up, became a coach. That's where kind of my teaching bug got into me. And then in college, I taught a little bit of aerobics and fitness, and progressing through the years, personal training, Pilates, I found yoga, which was extremely inspiring for me. And several years ago, I was introduced to the Gray Institute, and I've been with them ever since, taking education upon education because I just can't get enough. I find it amazing. And I found that there was a great connection between using applied functional science from the Gray Institute and applying it to the yoga practice. And that is where functional yoga system began, and that's where it keeps going.
Well, on behalf of myself and Gray Institute, I just want to personally and publicly thank you as well as Gary for all your efforts in producing this course. And as I mentioned earlier, you know, when people see functional movement system, immediately they're going to think, well, this is for the yoga professional. Well, of course, yes, it is. But more importantly, the functional yoga system is for all movement professionals. As we know, of course, of therapists and trainers and strength coaches, you name kind of the title, they are privy to this information and utilize this information because of the core of the information being applied functional science. And so when we look at the patients, the clients, or in this case, the students and the athletes, everybody can benefit from this course, especially the movement professional, because the inclusivity that you and Gary utilized in creating this course. And so as we kind of kick off the content and understanding more about this specialization, one key point is understanding how we can take traditional yoga and make it more functional. So Gary, if you could just kind of walk us through your thoughts behind that, but more importantly, kind of drill down on why this course is more functional than, say, a traditional yoga course.
Well, first of all, Doug, we have to almost define the word functional, because that's kind of one of those words that's out in the industry that's somewhat confusing. I know I've confused it a lot. And function just simply means being specific for the individual in front of us. What do they want to do? What do they need to do? For them, that's their function. And so when we say we're trying to take the traditional yoga and transform it into a little more function, one of the things I believe Teri did just a brilliant job with as she was teaching me the essence of yoga was as keeping the essence of yoga and respecting the intent of yoga and respecting the culture of yoga by then just gradually tweaking the amazing system that's already there and making it more functional. Again, what we mean by that is when I have a group class or if I have an individual in front of me, if I have a patient or client in front of me, how do I use this yoga concept and apply it more specifically to them? The easy way to look at it is I could choose from these poses, and I'm not necessarily really sure why I would choose those poses, but now if this person tells me, here's what I want for me, I want to be overall more mobile. Overall, I want to be stronger. Overall, I want to have better balance. Overall, I want to enjoy life more. And overall, I want to use this tool to get into the mindfulness and the spiritfulness and the bodyfulness that I desire with yoga. Well, then I believe Teri has done an incredible job saying, okay, we're going to respect every aspect of yoga. We're going to understand the original intent from 5,000 years ago, but we're going to tweak it and make it a little more functional. And you'll see that, as Doug said, it immediately becomes more inclusive, it becomes more personalized, and it becomes more purpose-driven based on what they want.
Well, that's a tremendous explanation, and I think that that's really the beauty of everything that Gray Institute produces is the common thread of applied functional science.
Functional Yoga System is a course for yoga instructors and/or movement professionals who want to expand their knowledge. The only specialization designed to enhance your yoga practice by taking a functional perspective and accessible mindset using applied functional science. This specially designed yoga instructor training course will deepen your understanding of the modern body, its needs, and how you can help students, clients, or patients systematically achieve their goals. Ask yourself, are you a movement professional, not just a yoga practitioner, looking for ways to enhance your patients' or clients' outcomes? Are you a yoga practitioner who feels bored with your own flow? Do you want to become the go-to yoga practitioner or movement professional through cutting-edge information and application? Enroll today at grayinstitute.inspire360.com.
And where the rubber really meets the road is, of course, that first word, applied. That when we can understand more of the principles behind the sciences of the physical, biological, and behavioral sciences, it really allows us to say, now we have to define what's functional within the context. And in this case, the context, of course, is not only yoga, but also how yoga can then transform the body into real life applications. So Teri, when you kind of hear that explanation, when we say this is how we ultimately want to make yoga more functional, what resonates in your mind?
Well, what resonates strongly with me, I respect the lineage, but we have to consider the lineage began thousands of years ago, where we moved a lot more and we were going more mindful with the yoga practice. These days, we have repetitive movements. We have sports. 5,000 years ago, somebody wasn't going to play tennis 5 days a week after sitting at a desk for 8 hours. And we have that now. So by being more functional, it's more kind of finding out what the person wants, what they're doing in their life, and kind of move them biomechanically more towards their goal of the human body moving less and needing to quiet the mind and move more. So that, for me, functional yoga is finding those specific threads that will help weave in the goals of the person in front of us for today's body.
Oh, that's an excellent explanation. It just gets me excited because I know a decent amount about this amazing specialization that you guys put together. But what the great thing about it is it's not just information, but it's in what the title is showing, that it's a system. And so as we kind of get into this next bullet point, or our main point of understanding more about the energy tweaks, it gives me an opportunity to allow our viewers to understand all the amazing content that is included in this specialization. And of course, I got my cheat sheet in front of me because the specialization, the course, is so jam-packed with amazing information, but it shows you how to systematically implement this into your practice, no matter if you're a therapist, a trainer, a yoga specialist, a chiropractor, a physician, a strength coach. This, of course, is for everyone. But as we ultimately want to allow you and Gary to talk more about these things that you dub energy tweaks, I would like our viewers to understand where energy tweaks fit into the entire course, into the entire system. And so with about 14 plus hours of information is what's included in the Functional Yoga System course. And part of the benefit is, of course, the supplemental information that you and Gary provide. And that supplemental information is PDFs, of course, including a 90-page outline, so that when I'm going through the course, I don't have to worry about taking too many notes, but I simply get to get lost in the enjoyment of the information. And so with all those PDFs, it really makes the learning experience that much more empowering. But as we get into Module 1, of course, it's kind of like what we're doing here, and we're setting the stage, we're setting the tone and understanding, how we're going to make yoga more functional. And then when you guys get into Module 2, applied functional science is clearly identified and applied. Module 3, you and Gary do a great job talking about the functional movement spectrum, or the principles that guide how we provide additional context to not only movement in general, but movement specific to yoga. In Module 6, you guys talk a lot about tweakology, or using our observational essentials from our CAV certification, which really is our applied functional science nomenclature, which really stems from our understanding of tweaking movement for a specific purpose. In Module 5, you and Gary talk a lot about getting deeper into the biomechanics, because it's really important to not understand the position you want to put the body in or the movement that you want to facilitate, but be able to answer the question, why? What type of chain reaction am I trying to facilitate? Module 6, you really get deep into our core of everything we do here at Gray Institute, and that's 3D maps, three-dimensional movement analysis and performance system. And you and Gary do a great job diving deeper into 3D maps from Module 7 to 11 to really understand more about the progressions for enhanced function that can continue to assist anyone's yoga program, or assist any type of prevention, performance, or rehabilitation program in general. Here's where it gets even more exciting, as if that wasn't exciting enough, is when you guys get into module 12, you dub something called energy tweaks, which I'm going to let Gary talk a little bit more about what those energy tweaks are and why they are included in the program. But this is really going to lead into our next component here in this webinar, is really diving deep into those energy tweaks and seeing how we can use those tweaks to enhance some traditional yoga poses and movements. Module 3 all the way through Module 18, Teri, you and Gary talk about putting it all together from a programming standpoint. And this is where you guys were brilliant enough to not only convey that information, but you guys were brilliant in that you gave the movement professionals that are going through the course something called cards that identify all these movements and tweaks, so that if I'm going to be putting a class together, or if I simply want a reference sheet on all the options and variables that I have at my fingertips to embed as well as improve my program, those are included in it as well. And then in Module 19, you guys do a great job just thanking people and identifying that this really is a journey. And that's what I love about these viewers in this webinar, is these viewers are not only looking for content, but they're looking for that next step, knowing that education never stops. And that's, of course, what Gray Institute's mindset is that we ultimately want to continue to learn in order to continue to apply, in order to continue to enhance the lives of those that we serve, the students, the athletes, the patients, the clients. And so understanding really the breadth, the depth, the width of the functional yoga system really allows you, the viewer, to understand all that you're going to have at your fingertips with this course. But to get you even more excited gets us into the second main point of this webinar, where I'd like to turn it over to Gary, and then he can turn it over to Teri to identify what you mean by these energy tweaks. What are they, and why are they such a significant part of this course?
Doug, thanks for giving that overview. As I was listening to it, I got a big smile on my face, because the journey that Teri took me through was just a wonderful journey, learning more about yoga, learning more about the traditions of yoga, but learning on ways that we could respectfully tweak yoga to make it more inclusive, to make it more personalized, to make it more purpose-driven, and to make it more fun, and ultimately make it more accessible to people like myself who do want to get to that mindfulness and do want to get into the ability to literally not only enhance my body, but to enhance my mind and enhance my spirit. I get a big smile because for 45 years, we at Gray Institute have tried to follow an understanding of this is the truth, therefore here's a strategy, and therefore here's a technique. And the truth of the matter is, human movement is variable. We all move different. We all do different things. And we kind of look at some of the traditional poses of yoga and say, does that cover it all? And we realize, no, I don't think that covers it all. There's a lot more to it. In fact, there's something as simple as taking some traditional poses and what we would call create variability to make it more individualized and specific and purpose-driven with what we call tweakology. Immediately, Teri said, well, really, in the world of yoga, these would be energy tweaks. These different things that we do and the energy tweaks would allow the body to be more functional and give the mind and give the body and give the spirit more energy. And I immediately go, well, that's it. I'm going to steal that from you, Teri, because I thought that was a brilliant phrase, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a health and wellness in the person of the people that we're dealing with in ways that we probably couldn't accomplish in other ways. So just in general, when I say just energy tweaks, without us maybe going specifically through them, which we'll touch on them a little bit, I think, Teri, tell me your thoughts on kind of traditional yoga and kind of your experience, and then now transforming that with the power of energy tweaks into something that I think is, again, I'm going to use the word again, more inclusive.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, we have these energy tweaks. So in traditional yoga, oftentimes we hit a pose and we hold still in the pose. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. And if you're in a flow class, you kind of move with the breath. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. But we know that motion is lotion. So by adding various energy tweaks, we might be able to get a little bit more motion, a little bit more lotion throughout the joints to make it more inclusive for maybe somebody who has a restricted hip, or somebody who's been sitting all day, or somebody who feels they're not flexible. When we allow permission for them to choose which energy tweak they do and the capacity with which they do it, they feel very empowered and encouraged to continue their yoga practice. So our energy tweaks are just there to enhance what is already great about yoga.
Yeah, and again, I just think you just did a beautiful job creating comfort for me, knowing that I could start with some of the basic poses that I was familiar with and just simply use the energy tweaks. But then when you take us through the whole idea of, well, this might be a more functional movement because we're going to get more joints and turn on more proprioceptors and engage more muscles, all of a sudden it's like, wow, we have these movements and we have these poses with these energy tweaks now that you've given us. And now I have this opportunity to really transform the lives of other people. I know one of the ones that we've used a lot, but you've allowed it to be more, I believe, what I'd call scientifically driven, is what we call a wobble. And we use what we call a lot of pelvis wobbles, where we just find a pose. And in that pose, we then ask the student in front of us to just drive their pelvis forward and back, and they already know by now this is the sagittal plane, and then just drive your pelvis in the frontal plane and the transverse plane, and immediately they get this look on their face like, ooh, this feels good. This is the rhythm I want. This is kind of the breathing I want. This is the mindfulness I want, as opposed to just trying to stay still. And then when they do go about their normal motions, they go, I'm not sure what exactly happened, but I'm moving better. And we scientifically know that a lot of human movement, we go into what we call a zone of transition or transformational zone. But when we come out of that zone, we come out of that with our pelvis. And so we're saying, well, if the pelvis is such a huge driver in human movement, let's use the pelvis as a huge driver in functional yoga, and therefore you're going to see a lot of that done. Would you mind, Teri, just demonstrating, it doesn't matter what pose, and then just showing the three-dimensional pelvis wobble that you've come up with our functional yoga?
Download the Gray Institute app for exclusive access to resources, training tools, and community. At Gray Institute, we pioneered the field of applied functional science. Now we're excited to offer exclusive updates on movement science, best practices, and other resources to our Gray Institute community of professionals. Our app offers practical tools that can improve both your practice and your client or patient performance. Our app offers powerful tools including access to the Home Fit app, exclusive community forum, webinars and extensive resources, and it's free to download. Download the Gray Institute app today, available from Google Play and the Apple Store.
Sure thing. So I'm going to take a very well-known pose, Warrior Two, with the arms out. And the pelvic wobble is moving the pelvis in the sagittal plane, that's forward and back. And then we move it in the frontal plane, which is side to side, and the transverse plane, which is in rotation. So each participant moves it within their own range, doesn't cause any pain. They find what they like. They're more engaged with the pose and more engaged with you as the instructor. And then finally, when they land the pose, should they choose to hold the pose, they're more settled in the pose for turning on all the proprioceptors, which is the body's information system, to get better cooperation throughout. And we can do a few other energy tweaks, but I'll let you.
Well, what was fun just watching you do that is everything was moving. So as you move your pelvis, I watched your feet, they were moving. And as I watched your shoulders and your neck, they were moving. And I'm thinking, well, that's more functional. That's more what the body wants. It wants this rhythmic movement to load and explode and to demonstrate its power. One of the, if you don't mind just staying in that pose, one of the tweaks that you came up with that I thought was just flat out brilliant is what we call a superior foot drive. All that means is we're going to simply lift either our lunging foot or our stance foot, or just simply say right foot, superior foot drive, left foot, superior foot drive. Go ahead and continue to do those, because it's just, when you do it, you go, well, this is kind of fun, and I'm finding my place on the mat, and I'm finding my place in space in doing this, and it just adds energy to the body. Great job. Now,
And what
ahead.
feels great about this is there's not a whole lot of load in yoga other than jumping from the back of your mat to your front of your mat. So when we get our students to experience this, they realize that jumping's not so bad and it doesn't hurt so much. And I can jump and feel confident that I'm not going to fall, I'm not going to hurt myself, and then I can land in that pose again.
That's beautifully done. Another thing that I think you really have taken it to the next layer, we've always had a thing called balance escalation that Dougie has did a great job with, taking us through the strategy of balance. But more and more we know about function, more and more we realize that all of life is balance. But all of life is losing your balance, not just trying to hang on to your balance. And as opposed to just trying to hang on to this one posture or one pose, you said, well, no, there's no law that says we can't move. In fact, most of human movement, walking itself, is losing one's balance, gaining one's balance, and then coming back through balance to something else. And so I don't want to kind of make it look bad, but just something even from a tree pose to going to what we call kind of a frontal plane, same side lateral, to coming back to balance. And so what you've done a beautiful job is saying, just take any pose you want, and we can go from balance to the pose. We can go to the pose to balance, or we can go balance to the pose to balance, which now gives us all kinds of options. Beautiful. So you're going from tree pose, now you're going to your same side lateral, and obviously you're going to your same side rotational. And it just not only feels great, but it really looks good, and you're turning on more proprioceptors. And what's exciting is, when we go through the specialization, we get empowered not only to know what are all these different movements and poses, but we learn why. A lot of times I'll ask people, so why did you choose that pose? And they'll kind of scratch their head and go, well, it's kind of what I do. But no, why for that person? Why for that class? Why for this purpose are you choosing that? And you empower us to come up with a strategy to say, well, today we're really going to work on this, and therefore our functional yoga is going to look like that. So I thought you just did a beautiful, beautiful job. And of course, a big tweak that we take advantage of that's been in yoga, but we, again, try to make it a little more functional, is breathing tweaks, where we do what we call in-sync breathing and out-of-sync breathing and out-of-rhythm breathing and in-rhythm breathing, which, at least for me, it got me to the state of, this is what I'm after. This is that state where I just feel I'm at peace with what I'm doing. I can appreciate and celebrate my breath, and I can just celebrate my body's ability to just do this stuff. So I thought you just did a great job kind of adding to the whole concept of the breathing energy tweak. Any other energy tweak that you go, hey, we have a bunch of them in there, but that you'd want to emphasize?
Yes. Okay, so we can combine energy tweaks as well. So if I go back to Warrior 2 and I did my pelvic wobbles, you see I've stacked some blocks here because I'm going to take Warrior 2 into half moon. You're going to see me wobble because that's human movement. Human movement is not standing still all the time. Human movement is negotiating motion. And an energy tweak of load, I can pick up this block, and now I've created more load. And I can take this load to a different direction. There goes the wobble. Negotiating motion. And then you get all of your students to giggle as we're all wobbling, and it makes it more fun and functional at the same time.
I've told everybody this, but as you taught me and as we went through the functional yoga system, the thing that I enjoyed is you would come up with these really cool phrases that I go, well, that describes it beautifully. And you just came up with one right now. I don't know if I call it negotiating motion. Wow. As opposed to non-negotiating the lack of motion, functional yoga literally allows the body to negotiate motion, which is truly functional in our world. That's what we want. We don't want stillness. We want the ability to empower ourselves through motion. So negotiating motion, I think, is brilliant. So, Doug, we could go on and on and on with these energy tweaks. And the nice thing is in the specialization we do, because it's the power of functional yoga, allowing the student to be empowered by the teacher, allowing the client to be empowered by the coach, and allowing the patient to be empowered by the therapist with these movements and negotiating motion and these postures and these energy tweaks so that we ultimately reach the goal of becoming more functional through our body function and through our mind function, and of course, very selfishly, through our heart and spirit function. And so I think it's worth the price of admission to see and to feel Teri taking us through these energy tweaks, Doug.
Well, I appreciate you introducing us all to the energy tweaks. And, as Gary and Teri said, there's additional tweaks in there to ultimately provide more energy to the body. And I'm kind of watching Gary and Teri and enjoying their banter, but watching Teri move within these tweaks really kind of frees up the person going through the yoga movements themselves. I'm kind of putting myself in his or her spot and saying, well, if I feel maybe less confident in a certain position, and I have an amazing professional like Teri Lewis that gives me freedom to wobble or tells me what to do with my foot by lifting it or doing some other energy tweaks, and I just see a couple things. One is I see that Teri's entire body is going along for the ride, but it's the subtle tweaks that really create the powerful ramifications. And that gets into the second point with those powerful ramifications, is that if I'm going through those movements and then I try to get into a pose, I'm that much more successful in the pose. So I'm looking at this saying, well, this is perfect to not only recruit people into a class, but more importantly, show them even more success within the session, within the class, to ultimately make them feel more empowered. But part of that empowerment process with these energy tweaks is not just picking arbitrary tweaks and hoping they work, but picking strategic tweaks, knowing they're going to work, that there's going to be ultimate carryover into real life application. And that's where, of course, movement takes place. And Teri said it great. It's the movement that turns on the proprioceptors. Then it's the proprioceptors that turn on the muscles. And then it's the muscles that, of course, control the movement. And that synergistic effort happens with those energy tweaks so that it naturally takes place. So, I just think it's brilliant. And it's naturally taking us back into the third component of course, this webinar. And we're going to hone in even more on Warrior 2, or we can even pick another traditional pose and throw a couple more energy tweaks into the mix, because I think understanding the brilliance that the system allows gets us even more excited to get through this content, to understand that it's going to significantly impact any movement professional's program with their patients, their clients, their athletes, their students. And so Teri, if you could take us back through the Warrior 2 pose one more time, or you could even throw a new pose in there. But let's hit one more of those energy tweaks with the excursion arcs to really kind of feel how that simple tweak not only makes the pose that much better, but ultimately what it does to the rest of the body.
Okay, so let's move from Warrior 2 into Warrior 1. And it doesn't really matter where the foot is. It's the comfort of the student or the participant. And to take an excursion arc, I can reach down towards the ground and reach as far out as possible and come up. This might look like a reverse warrior. And then I can take this to a side bend to the right. I'm going to the right. I can then side bend to the left. I can come around all within the warrior legs posing. And then I rotate to the left. And it feels amazing. The students absolutely love it. Those are excursion arcs.
Well, as you know, that's kind of my go-to. I love that. What's even more exciting about that is watching you do it and just see I would have to say, the beauty of the motion, the control of the motion. And that's what we're after, negotiating that motion, as you properly said. And what's neat is then you teach us to say, well, in this case, the foot's kind of in front of the other foot. We can do the same thing if we do the foot on the side of the other foot, and strangely enough, we would call that more of a frontal plane, or we can actually rotate open or rotate close and go through those same excursion arcs. So just for fun, would you mind just taking us through that again and just kind of do your same side lateral, and just now the foot's in a different position, the hips are in a different position, but now the body's going to appreciate the excursion arcs, the energy tweaks, in a different way.
Okay, so let me go with this side. Same side lateral, can step into it. I'm going to reach down. I can reach through or I can reach the outside. It doesn't matter. And then the hands trace a huge arcing motion to whatever range suits the participant. And then we side bend and on over. I'm smiling because it feels so amazing. You should pop up off your chair and give it a try. I rotate to one side and I rotate to the other side. This can also be done with the legs crossed, again, at the student's choice, and reaching down and back. You get a whole different sensation. And choosing all of these different movements, they feel so amazing. There's a little wobbling going on. There's some stretching going on. There's some work. Everybody's going to feel it a little bit differently. And that's the power of the functional yoga system, because it'll accommodate each student for what they need and for the body that they're bringing to class.
Again, beautifully done. As I'm sitting here, I'm anticipating that we have three major groups of people who are watching this right now. Those like me that knew very little about yoga, and the only thing I knew about yoga was my limited experience in yoga. So I went to a yoga class, and as I shared with you, I just didn't feel like I fit in. I didn't look like the rest of the class. I didn't hold the poses like the rest of the class. The teacher tried to be very uplifting, but she really wanted me to look like the picture, and I felt like I let her down, and I just had a sense that I was being judged. It didn't get me to the place where I thought I was going to go mentally or physically or spiritually in a yoga class. There's another group where people out there have dabbled in teaching yoga, and they're saying, this is very interesting. This may be why I've only dabbled and I haven't gone deep, because strangely enough, this makes more what we would call functional sense. And then, of course, we have the yogis, the people like Teri, who have dedicated a big part of their life to understand and empower people. And you yogis have enhanced lives your whole life. And all we're trying to do is saying, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about adding this small little tweak? As Doug said, the small tweaks are the most powerful. Have you thought about this different position? Have you thought about strategically giving the entire body an opportunity to experience negotiating this motion throughout all the joints and this movement throughout the body? And Teri has done a beautiful job walking us through that and empowering us. And so as we kind of decide, is this for somebody who just wants to enhance the movement and the life of others? Yep. Is this somebody who wants to kind of go deeper into yoga and go, wow, I think I kind of found my love here in functional yoga? And is this for the yogi who's just does an amazing job already and say, I do want to make it more personalized. I do want to understand movement better. I do want to understand a little bit of the chain reaction biomechanics, so I can really empower that group in front of me or empower that person in front of me. So, Doug, I just think Teri has done a beautiful job making it for all of us to really enjoy and to employ in a way that definitely does transform the lives of others.
I would wholeheartedly agree with that. I think, your synopsis and kind of your journey into and through this functional yoga system alongside Teri is very compelling. I think what's even more compelling is knowing that this information is getting out in the movement industry. Just the immediate impact that people are letting Gray Institute know about is how much they love the course, how excited they are about the course. And it's because of honoring the tradition of yoga while still trying to up the standard of yoga in general from a functional standpoint. And so, Teri, I'm going to kind of throw you on the spot because, of course, you are well-versed in the yoga world. You have a significant track record, immense education with yoga in general, as well as applied functional science. So as you went through this process of creating this alongside Gary, what was perhaps your biggest takeaway?
Ask yourself, are you looking to reconcile differences and inconsistencies in your movement education? Do you desire to know more about how the body truly functions, how it truly moves? Are you treating or training causes or just the compensations? Do you want to be able to treat or train any and every patient or client effectively? Are you looking to rejuvenate your career, enhancing your passion and purpose? Do you want to share an experience with other passionate movement professionals? Gift Gray Institute for Functional Transformation. Transform your career and transform your patient and clients' lives. We're proud to offer 2 program options for GIFT 2022. GIFT Fellows will have the opportunity to complete their fellowship entirely online or to attend 2 GIFT gatherings in addition to their online mentorship. This will provide gift fellows with the flexibility they need to stay nimble in our ever-changing world. GIFT is a 40-week mentorship program in applied functional science. GIFT provides certification in functional manual reaction as part of the 40-week mentorship program, as well as being credentialed and recognized as a Fellow of Applied Functional Science. And FAFS has the knowledge, analytical ability, and hands-on manual skills necessary for the application and integration of the core content of the GIFT curriculum, thus strategically designating you as a member of a select group of practitioners synonymous with the highest standard of care in the functional analysis of human movement. The program begins Thursday, February 3rd, 2022, and concludes the week of October 31st, 2022. Apply now at grayinstitute.com.
Wow. Well, first, I was honored to be working with Gary and the Gray Institute. I never expected that to happen, so that was one of my greatest honors. So that was my big takeaway. I have this big smile on my face because every time I think about the experience of creating functional yoga system with the Gray Institute, it just makes me smile, and I'm going to have more wrinkles, but that's okay. It's worth it. My biggest takeaway is there's so much good about yoga, and there's so much more that could make it just a little bit different. We're not asking that your whole practice be changed or shifted, but maybe tweak one little thing in your practice, and you might open up somebody's whole world. A couple comments I've had from some participants is, one of my favorites is a woman worked on a farm. She was a farmer, and she's maybe in her mid-50s, and we were doing functional yoga system in a class. She didn't know what it was. I didn't announce it. I just kind of tweaked things here and there, and she came up to me after class and she said, wow. She said, I never thought I would ever feel this way again. I thought I was just getting old, and that's how it was going to be from now on. And wow, that didn't put a smile on my face only. It put a smile in my heart, because when you hear the feedback from how this feels for people, it just validates all of the hard work and all of what we know for science biomechanically. And even if we don't necessarily know and understand it, as we go through these movements, they just feel amazing, and people feel really empowered. And that was my biggest takeaway of, well, I knew it would work. Scientifically, I knew it would work. I hoped it would work in my heart. But the evidence of what people say and how much it works, oh, my back pain is gone. You made my back pain go. I didn't make their back pain go away. They found the movements that worked for them. The feedback is the best takeaway of going through this whole process.
It is all about the feedback, but it's also about, I think, instant success. And I think that that's what really makes this program so engaging, encouraging, and empowering. And in fact, those 3 E's we constantly harp on in a good way here at Gray Institute, is that we not only want content that engages, but content that empowers and content that encourages. In turn, to allow the movement professional, those viewers watching this right now, to do what they're already doing on a daily basis with their students, their patients, their clients, their athletes, and that's engage them, empower them, and encourage them. And we believe that movement is a very significant tool in making that happen, no matter the niche, or in this case with yoga or movement in general, that there's significant ways that we can take what's already made us as movement professionals so successful and tweak it a little bit to make it even more successful, not only just for our benefit, but more importantly for those end users, for those people that you just talked about, Teri, that you basically gave them their life back by enhancing their movement patterns. And so I know this, time flies when you're having fun. I know that time flies when you're learning, but I know that time really flies when you're having fun learning. And that's, I think, what this webinar allowed for. So as we kind of come to the close of this webinar, I personally just want to thank the viewers yet again for tuning in and learning more about this, because it already tells me a lot about you, that you're continually trying to up your game. You're continually trying to learn more in order to do more with those people that you serve. And I just want you to know that for Gray Institute to understand that simply allows us to tell you how much we thank you and how proud we are for you taking that path. I'm also very thankful, appreciative, and proud of not only Gary, but also Teri in putting this course together. And so what I would like to do here real quick is give them back the floor to kind of sign off on this webinar and allow them to just go ahead and give their closing remarks as well. So Gary, why don't you go first?
Well, as I was listening to you talk and again, appreciating Teri's words of wisdom, it's, I think, kind of a natural thing for us to kind of just selfishly think about what's going on in the world around us. And in a day and age where things are not that easy and things are somewhat sad, and there's pain out there, and there's frustration out there, and there's just anger out there. There's judgmental things out there. There's just things that we go, wow, I need an oasis. I need the opportunity to celebrate. Well, this is what Teri has done. She's created an oasis for us. And by us learning it and being able to then empower others with the same oasis to literally celebrate life, I think is probably the number one reason I would really strongly recommend you considering becoming a functional yoga specialist. In the world, in today's world, we need somebody to come alongside us, and that's literally what yoga means, to yoke. And Teri has come alongside us and literally said, I'm going to develop and design an oasis for you. I'm going to give you an opportunity to celebrate your life, not only as a teacher and as a coach and as a therapist, but more importantly, I'm going to give you tools to create the oasis and celebration of life for others. So I just want to again thank you, Doug, for hosting this. Thank you all for joining us. It means a great deal that you would care enough just to say, hey, what's this all about? And of course, really want to thank Teri. And even those who have gone on before us, the Al Binghams of the world and our other gift fellows of the world who have given us some additional insight as to what is the best way to enhance the lives of others. So, Teri, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you. And I just want to say I really appreciate everybody that tuned in today and those that might be tuning in a future date. I really, really appreciate it. And I want to thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Gary, and thank you, Teri, and most importantly, thank you, viewers, for tuning into this webinar. As Gary and Teri were alluding to, it's really all about what we can do for others from a movement standpoint. And I want to thank Gary and Teri for how they've given back to the movement industry, but I also want to thank you for how you give back to the movement industry by utilizing information, not for information's sake, but more importantly, to use that information to enhance the lives of those that you serve on a daily basis. On behalf of all of us here at Gray Institute, thank you for who you are and all you do.
Gray Institute's Chain Reaction Virtual On-Demand Experience is December 2nd to 13th, 2021. Enroll today. Learn and experience applied functional science firsthand from the source. You are cordially invited to join Dr. Gary Gray, the father of function, and Doug Gray for an amazing virtual on-demand event seminar that will provide immense value and immediate impact to your craft. Chain Reaction will empower you, the movement professional, to better serve and enhance the lives of your patient and clients in the areas of analysis, rehabilitation, training, and prevention. Chain Reaction is internationally acclaimed and now in its 33rd year. Why is this the longest running seminar in the industry? Because it teaches real-life biomechanics, not taught in school or traditional certifications, and a process, not a protocol, to treat or train any and all patients and clients. This has led to seminar participants saying, I wish I would have learned this earlier in my career. Check out these features and benefits for each seminar registrant. Updated and enhanced with focus on ACL prevention, performance, and rehabilitation. Opportunity to be certified in 3D maps for only $100. An ebook to presentation. Access to virtual on-demand event for 12 days, view and review information, CEU's 16.5 contact hours based on passing the exam, and a certificate. There is a $445 early bird rate through October 31st, 2021, $495 afterwards. Group rate discounts available. For group rate registration, please call Gray Institute directly at 517-2 266-4653. Whether you have attended a chain reaction in the past or this is your first opportunity, this truly is an engaging experience that you do not want to miss. It will be momentous to your professional advancement as well as the functional advancement of your patients and clients. Go to grayinstitute.inspire360.com to enroll or check us out on Facebook or Instagram. Thanks for joining us here on the Gray Institute podcast. At Gray Institute, our goal is to do one thing the best we can, and that is to help you become the go-to movement professional. If you have a question for future podcasts or questions about anything Gray Institute offers, including education, live or online specializations, or mentorship, please email us at info@grayinstitute.com. Be sure to look for our next podcast coming soon. Have a great day.